Our next speaker is Dr. Mark Orams from the Sir Peter Blake Trust. Professor Mark Orams is currently the head of School of Sport and Recreation at AUT University. He's a lifelong user of the Hauraki Gulf and considers it his playground. A marine scientist by training, he has a PhD in Marine Resource Management, a Master of Science in Marine Protected Area Management, and currently serves as co-chair of the International Coastal and Marine Tourism Society. Mark is a successful competitive yachtsman, having won over 20 New Zealand titles in a range of sailing classes, including 4 world titles. He was twice a member of Team New Zealand when the event was hosted in the Hauraki Gulf. That was one of the times that we won, right? We haven't done that recently. And was a member of the crew of Steinlager 2, the winner of the 1989-90 Whitbread Round the World Yacht Race. He's an active surfer, stand-up paddleboarder, diver, swimmer, sailing coach, and marine conservation advocate. Mark says the key issue facing the Hauraki Gulf is how we value the recreational use of the Gulf. Would you please give a warm welcome to Dr. Mark Orams?
Kia ora everybody. Nau mai haere mai. As a staff member of AUT University, I should welcome you all here to our campus, and I hope you're enjoying the facilities. This is actually a new building for us, so it's great to have this kind of event here in the area that I work. On Sunday afternoon, I did what I do on most summer Sunday afternoons. I went out and helped run yacht races at my little local sailing club at Torbay, off the East Coast bays in the Hauraki Gulf. And in thinking about what I was going to say tonight, I looked around as I was on my paddleboard and watching my children sail and other people's children sail. And what I could see as I cast my eyes around is I could see people out in sea kayaks, I could see people out sailing, I could see people out recreational fishing, I could see the ferry coming back from Tiritiri Mātangi, bringing volunteers and tourists from that island in their day trip. I could see boats anchored up in Woody Bay at Rakino Island. I could see people walking their dogs and having picnics on the beaches all the way down the East Coast bays. And when I looked up, I could see hundreds and hundreds of houses on the cliff tops behind the beaches, all facing the sea and all valued at well over $1 million. And while I looked around at that, it struck me that this value of the Hauraki Gulf, that is the value for us as a playground, as a backdrop, as a place that we recreate, is underrepresented in almost every planning document, in every decision-making forum, in every discussion about the Hauraki Gulf. No disrespect to all of the other important issues about sediment, about dredging, about transportation, about tourism, about fisheries, but most Aucklanders, their engagement with the Gulf and their passion for the Gulf and the way that we can access their support for what we're trying to achieve with sea change is through their engagement with the Hauraki Gulf as a playground. That is primarily, despite years of academic training and all the research that myself and students and others have done, and my understanding of the degradation and the issues in the science, primarily what gets to me, not up here, but in here, is what I get to do on this wonderful ocean playground and understanding that wonderful saltwater soup that sits as part of it. So my issue for me that I want to engage the panellists with is how do we reach and engage all of those, and yes, there are probably hundreds of thousands of Aucklanders and tens of thousands of visitors to this region who utilise the Hauraki Gulf. And I would venture that 95% of them wouldn't even know that they're in a marine park. The visibility of the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park is very low. We don't have the branding and the reach into that broader community that we need to. And I think it's through recreational activities and the passion for those activities that we can reach that broader mass of people. The other thing I want to finish with is the changing demographic of our urban area. I've lived in Auckland most of my life, but in the last decade, things have changed more than any other time in the history of our city. 1.5 million people now live in this region, and a third of them were born outside of New Zealand. 500,000 people did not grow up like the most of us here did, with the sort of ethic and engagement with the marine environment, the coast, and our natural ecosystems in this country. And so how we reach and engage them is a critical issue for the future of the Gulf as well. Kia ora, thanks.
What my question would be is not so much the people that are out on the water, but when they go back to their homes and they put their business suit on, or they put their farmer's suit on, or they put their any sort of land-based activity outfit on the Monday morning, when they make their decisions, do they look through the filter of, I've just spent the weekend on the water, or I've just seen what I've seen? Because aside from recreational fishing, Tikapa Moana is suffering from land-based influences that we don't and we haven't recognised yet. So what part of that decision-making process do we need to look at? There's a thing called nature deficit disorder, and it's, those people that grew up without being in nature, and so when they make a decision, it's not through a green or a blue filter, it's through a money filter, or it's through a development filter. And so what part of the community that actually does go home after they spend the weekend on the water change the way they act when they go back to their farms or to their buildings or to their planning meetings? And what is it that we can do to change the way they think and make their decisions from there on? That'll put it out there.
I'm just going to talk about one example that's really relevant to this. Last year, pretty much this week, it was Seaweek last year. We cleaned up Waiheke Island. We're in the middle of doing that again right now. And just out of the 500 school students that we took out there from South Auckland, low decile schools only were the ones that got the opportunity to come out. For almost all of them, it was their first time on a boat, right? And a lot of them would have probably not been born here, that's for sure. Out of one group in particular where I knew the principal, because he's taken every single opportunity that we've given to schools to get his kids out on our events. 40 kids from Manurewa, right? 12 of them, 10 to 12 years old, 12 out of 40 had never been to the beach before. How do I try and change someone's behaviour about littering on land because it's affecting the beach if they've never been there? So this is another and I'm totally on board with what you're saying, Mark, because we talk about surfing and diving and sailing and everything that's fun to get people excited about the beach. But there is another issue sitting underneath here. I can tell you, I don't think a lot of those kids' parents are in this room. And this is an access issue that needs to sit alongside that and probably in that last part that you were talking about, how do we get people access to this as well? Anyway.
That was kind of a question, Sam, wasn't it? Does anybody have an answer?
Does anyone have an answer? I mean,
well, the training ship Gambia is the brainchild of Ted Scott. Hasn't ever got off the ground. It's a beautiful thing. 90-foot steel scows designed to pick up the classroom on Monday morning. And off they go, 2 or 3 of these boats at 3 knots. It's all relative when you're equal, and they're going to race, and they're going to spend a day, and they're going to come into some shallow draft estuarine Tecum anchor the night and wake up in the morning on the bottom, decile 1, 2, 3 schools, the classroom, on a boat. There's more maths and a compass than they can possibly learn in a week. Just have this maritime syllabus. here we are, this dreadful hypocrisy, all the city of sails, and there's not a bloody vessel dedicated to low decile children. It's appalling. There's one great big beautiful training ship that's designed to take some really lucky people out there and do a spirit of adventure thing, but to take the classroom and its parent support and a fleet of them, ASB could be competing with the ANZ. And off they go at 3 knots. We don't need high performance. We just need relativity, and we need a skipper that puts the handbrakes on if he gets too far ahead.
Can I just respond to that and introduce 2 wonderful organisations I've been privileged to be involved with, and it's not to disparage the ideas, but one of those is the Sir Peter Blake Marine Education and Recreation Centre at Long Bay, which has been in existence for 25 years, the 25th anniversary coming up in the next week. Over 30,000 children go through that centre each year and in residential courses. We've fundraised to have a disadvantaged children's fund to support low decile schools to go through there, and these are children who exclaim that the sea is salty when they get there. When you educate them to put a wetsuit on because it's going to be cold, you have to be quite explicit and tell them to take their clothes off first. I mean, these are children who've never been across the harbour bridge, and Merck's been doing that for 25 years. The second organisation is the New Zealand Sailing Trust, and I have a direct involvement with that also as a trustee. 2 of Sir Peter Blake's ex-Whitbread round-the-world yacht race boats, one of which I was privileged to sail on, in Steinlager 2 and also Lion New Zealand, have been restored and are now taking high school-aged children, particularly from lower decile schools, out for experiences in these wonderful boats to learn about our sailing heritage, to learn about the Hauraki Gulf, and to learn about why it's important to look after it. So there are a lot of non-governmental organisations doing these kinds of things, and they are making a difference. And Sustainable Coastlines and what Sam's done's just been amazing as well. But to come back to my first point in response to Steve's question, none of those organisations would have happened without leadership, without people taking the initiative and having the guts to make things happen.